Hey, it's Alex Morowski, the host of In Pursuit of Purpose, and today I have one of my mentors, professors, and honestly, one of my friends here with me today, Dr. David Bergen. Dr. Bergen, thank you for being here.
Well, I'm so honored to be here, Alex, and please know you are an inspiration for me every day.
Well, I really appreciate it, but just to start out, tell me and tell the listener a little bit about who Dr. Bergen is.
Every morning I am grateful for High Point University and being able to, what we always say, implement the promises that are made as people are considering joining our community. Again, I'm David Bergen. I am a Z. Smith Reynolds Professor of Leadership within the David Congdon School of Entrepreneurship. And I am the incoming Siegfried Leadership Fellows Executive Director, which I'm really excited about.
Very exciting.
Expanding my ability to hopefully serve as a positive intervention for students.
Yeah. And what got you interested in leadership?
So my journey is a little atypical. When I was in graduate school, I did my undergraduate in psychology. I was always interested in studying the human condition and kind of why people do what. I got my master's in counseling, and when I was getting my PhD in counseling and org behavior, I was really less interested in some of the therapeutic elements and more of the daily interpersonal dynamics about how we relate to, how we connect with other people. And a lot of people in the leadership development field have similar training that I do. Also, while I was getting my PhD, a staff member here at High Point University said, "Why don't you come to campus and just kind of see what we do here?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, that sounds good." Came over, saw the love for students, the collegiality between colleagues, and so I was so impressed. I said, "Can I do an internship?" They said, "Absolutely." So in the summer, I lived in Wamcom. And
Wow. Okay.
Back then, this was pre-NITO days.
Dr. Bergen in the Women's Complex. All right.
But this is pre-NITO. And so in the summer, we would fill all the buildings with soccer camps and other kinds of athletic camps of maybe high school and middle school students. So while I lived there, it was coaches and like 10,000 boys running, 24 hours a day through the building. And I loved it. And so when I finished my internship, they offered me a job and I never left.
Well, I'm definitely glad you're here because I think you are the only professor that I'd be willing to take a 7:50 in the morning class with.
Which I love 7:50s.
Although I'm already almost always late to your 7:50 class. But yeah, we'll keep that a secret. So your interest in leadership sparked because you were curious how you relate to other people, how people relate to one another. And a large component of that is stress. How do you analyze your own stress? How do you let your stress affect your relationships? Is your stress noticeable to others? Does it bring you down? How does it impact relationships in the workplace and in your personal life? So today, we're going to be talking about all things stress.
Wonderful.
And you did an entire lecture over stress in our leadership class, so I know you have a lot of great information to talk about. But to start, what is stress?
So it's a wonderful question. And while it's a simple question, the answer is fairly complex. Most simply, it's a physical and psychological response to something. That could be internal, external. It could be embedded in some reinforced learning. It could be contextual variables that are triggering something. Stress is complicated, particularly if we stay within like a leadership context about pressure and frustration, and obviously the pursuit of some kind of objective. And so sometimes when that's resisted in some way, when somebody kind of gets in our way or some objective is challenging, we naturally experience stress. And stress is positive and negative.
Yeah. How can stress be a positive and how can it be a negative? What's the difference between good and bad stress?
Wonderful. It's a wonderful question. So can I back up a little bit? And
Yeah,
just give some
you
foundation?
have free reign to say whatever you want.
I love it. So when we think of stress, it's really helpful for us to talk about survival and success and significance. So when we talk about in pursuit of purpose, we think about us going down an avenue in alignment with who we are, in alignment with what we value, and hopefully towards some outcome that we see multiple layers of value. Okay. So for me as a professor, I want my students to be empowered. I want them to feel valued. I want them to feel safe to take risks. I feel very passionately about High Point University or higher education being a 4-year purposeful intervention. Okay, so when we look at stress, and you made a wonderful point about positive and negative or good or bad stress. When we talk about stress that's positive, we talk about eustress, and things going well can be equally stressful when things are not going well, or what we would call distress. So getting an A on a paper could be like, oh, can I maintain this A?
Yeah.
Getting a C on a paper can be, oh my gosh, I've not done well. I have not met my objective. So Hans Selye talks about this idea of the fight or flight response. Okay? And when we talk about this, we're talking about an outdated physiological response to stress. So you think, you and your friends are out hiking in the woods and you hear some animal rustling, and you can't see it. You're thinking, are we in danger? Maybe if you're in the North Carolina mountains, you're thinking like, is there a bear? And you might very wonderfully be alarmed, right? Yeah, sure, absolutely. And so would you run a little faster if that bear sort of poked its head out of the bushes? Absolutely.
I'd probably start sprinting. If I saw
Screaming.
if I saw an insect, I'd start running. So
Film it, but do it so then you can. And so you think, okay, that's a really natural response, but you're probably not really hiking around bears very often.
Yeah.
And so when we look at this survival mechanism, it's embedded in who we are and in our history. So then you come all the way forward to 2025 and you think, what are the threats today? Because when we think about stress, we think about that psychological and physiological response to survive.
yeah.
And so we have to acknowledge that if we are stressed moderately, we get stronger. Runners need to run, and runners need to run either faster or further
Yeah.
to be able to get better. Right?
Yeah.
Of course. And so we have a test. You stress yourself out, you study for it, you come in and you do great. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we talk about that response, it is our gearing up to survive. So that includes changes in breathing. It talks about blood flow even changing to the larger muscles so we can run or we can climb, we can fight. So fight or flight response. I'm ready to fight something or I'm ready to flee. And so to run away. And so that preparation, that sympathetic system gearing up for something to happen is pretty maladaptive in today's world.
Yeah.
So you're sitting with someone and you're just talking and having fun, and then they make a comment and you're like, it's a curious comment. I'm not sure how I should respond to that. Or maybe you're in a situation where it's comes across as punitive or critical. Someone could easily post something on social media and maybe get some negative responses and then feel rejected. And so they start feeling that stress response. And so that stress response, while it is beneficial to getting us over procrastination and to engage in things in life, it can be crippling at the same time. And it can serve to divert our energy from productive outcomes to less productive outcomes.
So there's a lot that goes into stress.
Yes.
And I could tell you know a lot about stress. And it's all really, really great information because we have to understand how to address stress. We first have to understand what stress is. So in its simplest form, based off what you said, tell me if I'm getting this right.
Okay.
Stress is our response to something that we feel and deem as a threat to us. In a very simple nutshell.
Yes.
So when you're talking about threats, I think that the biggest thing that stress threatens is your purpose. I think purpose is our driving force on behind our actions, behind our life. And think about it as this path, this pathway of purpose that you're walking on. And when you're walking on it, you feel the fulfillment of living out your purpose. You're working towards something that you are being driven towards. And when there is a tree in the middle of the path, or a snake that crawls over the path, or a bear that pokes his head out of the bushes, our natural instinct is to protect ourselves,
Yes.
to make sure that the threat doesn't attack us. And oftentimes we compromise our purpose to get us into safety. So
I love that. That's perfectly phrased.
So if it threatens our purpose, then how do we deal with it? How do we respond to stress without letting it attack us and take us away from what we are working towards? How do we deal with stress without letting it take us away from our purpose?
It's a really beautiful question. And so let me answer it this way. When we know our purpose, it helps us appraise stress differently. So if I can appraise stress, if I can evaluate that stress as being beneficial, think about mindset, think about growth mindset, then you're really in a position where you say, this may ultimately benefit me, and so I'm going to persevere. I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to appraise that stress as something that is positive. When I am feeling unheard, when I feel like maybe psychologically I am not safe, when I feel like I don't belong, then what happens is I do retreat, as you said. I do go into self-protection mode. And for a lot of people, we have to bring up the word anxiety. They have a lot of either ruminations of what's happened, or they have fear of what might happen. And that becomes two things. One, paralyzing, and two, takes them out of the moment. And so they have lost contact or minimized contact with now. And so they're not realizing what's happening and how to really make smart decisions, purposeful decisions. And they oftentimes go into a place where that self-protection tends to be less positive for themselves. Can I add one more thing?
Go for it.
Think about this, and you've certainly heard in class. You've heard me mention Brene Brown, Dr. Brown, and she talks a lot about stories and scripts. And just one of my favorite things. So when we think in 2025, and when we think maybe of a typical college student, we could think about something as simple as, are they my friend or not? Do they want me here or not? And so a script is when you're following a story that you have lost control of. So it might be like, oh, it's midnight, I have a test tomorrow. I'm really not a good student. I am not going to do well. Why would I act like a good student when I've already written the script that I'm a bad student? So I don't prepare fully. I don't get enough sleep. I wake up tired. I go and take the test. And it's, I don't do well. Therefore, the script's been carried out. Stories are when we have triggers that are pre-made. So a wonderful story for me is coming onto campus in the mornings and being just deeply grateful for this campus. And sometimes I'll come different entrances and just like, what's Dr. Cobain building now? There's something I haven't seen, another $100 million project.
Is that a new fountain?
Yes. Oh, yeah, well. Or new flag, a new whatever. Yeah, a new statue. And it's so exciting. And so if we look at that as an example, those are meant to be emblematic of the values that we embody, of the stories that we're creating and the journey you're on. So we're rewriting the story. For me to come onto campus, and I love early mornings, it is like, how is the day unfolding? What am I doing? What I really worry about is less those kinds of stories and stories of like, am I going to be successful? Am I valuable? And I think a lot of times if we, again, stay with like a leadership context and purpose, you think, if I'm unclear of that journey, it's hard for me to perceive stress as positive
Yeah.
because I'm floating without an anchor, without
Yeah.
being grounded.
Yeah.
And so if we can manage our stories, if we can manage those scripts, we can manage our triggers, and we can really achieve extraordinary success because even in the face of obstacles, we can manage that stress response.
Yeah. I liked when you talked about changing your mindset on stress and seeing it a different way. The stress itself is not going to change, but our perspective on it can change and our reaction to it can change. And I think there's such a negative connotation around stress
Yes.
today.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a good thing because so many people desire this stress-free life. And they don't realize that a life of success and significance comes with risk, and a life of purpose comes with natural stress. So try and eliminate all the stress and you eliminate all the beauty of life. I found it this way when I was in middle school going into ninth grade. I really struggled with a lot of things. I have a whole episode on it, on episode 4, called In the Game. But one of the things that I tried to do in ninth grade was hide my weaknesses, hide what I didn't want other people to see about me. You could also say it as I tried to hide my stress. I tried to put down the things that I don't want to be seen as or I don't want to feel. And I realized 2 things. One, if you try and hide your weaknesses, you end up hiding your strengths and your talents and your gifts and your value and your whole life with it. To be your authentic self, you need to show both your strengths and your weaknesses. And the other thing I realized is what you think you're burying, you're actually planting. And what you plant will grow. So
I love that.
we talk about stress as a bad thing and stress as a good thing. I think stress is a good thing in certain levels, of course. I think the real bad thing is the way we approach stress in today's world. I think that it's not stress that keeps us back as much as it is our fear of stress. Does that make sense?
It does. You know, you are such a magnificent individual. And what I love, what you just referenced, is your authenticity. And in that authenticity comes a transparency with other people. And with that comes a way of reconciling stress, saying, here I am.
Yeah.
Is anybody perfect? We're not perfect. But when we're fighting for perfection, we are stressing ourselves out, if I could say it simply. And that takes so much energy, takes so much focus. And then what happens is people don't really know who we are, really.
Yeah.
And so then it negates authentic relationships and partnerships that you're so gifted at. I think that it's interesting to look at that fear of stress. That, again, becomes a trigger for people. To work hard for something is really where we find our purpose.
Yeah.
It is the experience of stress for success that is ultimately the reward. There's nothing like working hard for something and achieving it than starting out in the beginning saying, I just don't know if I'm going to do this. I'm not going to work very hard. And I think that people can partition their life in ways that really minimize just incredible ways that they could achieve that significance or that purpose, and they could realize kind of what they're on this earth to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would take realness over perfection all day.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
Every day. And nobody wants you to be perfect.
Right.
If you try and be perfect, it kind of backfires on you because now you come off as this arrogant guy who thinks that they're all this. And people know there's no such thing as perfect. So if you try and be perfect, other people see right through that. And they're like, who is this guy?
Don't we love people who are quirky and unique? And,
Yeah.
it is. I have a student in one of my classes. He always comes late. His name is not Alex, but he always comes.
I thought this was a reference to me without saying
he
it.
always
but-
comes late, and so we've made it like a joke in class. And then yesterday in class, he was like, "Dr. Bergen, I'm here on time," and I was like, "Oh my!" I won't name him. And the class was laughing, and he was wonderful. And I said, "Oh my gosh, we were talking about this," and I thought, "What a gift!" He's only like 30 seconds late, 60 seconds late. I'm usually introducing things. And I thought, what a wonderful way of like kind of laughing at yourself and realizing, does he miss deadlines and other things? He doesn't,
Yeah.
And so I love that point. I guess the real question is, how do we get there? For you, there was a reconciliation. There is this idea of kind of saying, who am I and how am I going to live my life? And I think that we do that through acceptance of other people, feeling like we belong. You have such a clarity of your purpose and your vision. And I know that guides you and the activities and relationships and investments that you make. And to me, that's transformational. And even for you, now we face the end of your only first year at High Point University.
Yeah, I still got 3, maybe 4 years left.
Oh,
if
I
come
want
back
7.
for a
You're not
master's.
leaving, That is, look where you're going.
Yeah.
And look at the people you're partnering with and bringing along and positively impacting. To me, that's world change. And I think if we can figure out how we can exponentially multiply our impact with other people, that's how we magnify our purpose. That's how we really develop extraordinary leadership. And part of that fundamentally is, how do I deal with stress? Because your life is not simple. Your schedule is not empty.
Yeah.
Now, let me make up another thing. So a lot of times in this fear of stress, we
Yeah.
think, well, I'm going to do nothing. And what we find, what the research says, is that when we don't have enough stress, now it's not prescriptive, everybody it's different,
Right.
we're equally unhappy than when we have too much stress.
Yeah.
And so we have to look at, what is the balance of commitment? What is the balance of investment? If we take it from an entrepreneurial perspective, oftentimes people feel great rewards by investing many hours and time and really have spectacular results. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they fail. I think any great leaders can identify a failure and they learn from it and it empowers them and off they go. And so then you think, okay, what am I willing to give my time to? What am I willing to give my life to?
Yeah.
And I think that's the deepest reward. Look at High Point University, how many incredible amount of hours that we give volunteering, non-paid investment. A lot of times you have to get up early on Saturdays. Sometimes you have to drive, do all kinds of hard work sometimes. And people tend to love it.
Yeah.
A group on campus did package 10,080 meals last Friday. The group was exhilarated. People were high-fiving and cheering. It was a couple hours of work. Nobody got paid. The rewards were just like, we changed the world. A lot of the meals were going to Central Africa and other places. And was it stressful? And were they busy? And could they do other things? They could, but it was the purpose of giving back that helped them overcome that stress.
Yeah. You mentioned how I have a sense of purpose that drives me. And I have done a lot this past year, but I do want to point out that anybody can. It's not like some superpower that I have. It's a superpower that anybody can have. I think purpose is a superpower. And
It is.
I would so be lying to you if I said I figured all this out on my own. I have had really high times in my life, and I have had really low times in my life. And I have had times where I had no clue what I was put on this earth to do and questioning basically everything in my life. And that's really where my mentor, his name's Mark Delaney, I talk about him a lot on here, actually. He has a program called The Purpose Mastermind and a podcast called The Purpose Mastermind, who really is the inspiration behind everything that I do today. And in 9th grade, he helped me realize my purpose. And he made it clear to me that the problems that people face in the world today often are not the problems themselves. They are the result of a deeper problem of a lack of purpose, a lack of intentionality, a lack of drive. And he helped me realize that. And that set me free. So now I'm doing everything I can to help other people realize that. That's why I started this podcast. Not because I think I know some magic secret and I'm above everybody, but just because I found it. I found the thing that anybody in this world can unlock. And that's what I want to help people see. But I know you also mentioned how I have a lot going on. I'm not not stressed out because I have nothing going on.
Right.
I have a very busy schedule. And I think that highlights the difference between having stressed and feeling stressed out. I think they're two completely separate things.
Love that. I love that distinction.
And I think having stress, if you're looking at it in like a graph, I know the listener can't see what I'm doing with my hands right now, but think of a what?
A bell curve.
A bell curve, yes. Think of like it starts low, it goes up, and then it goes low. Your middle section, that peak, top performance, is that good amount of stress. It's that stress that comes from living a purpose-driven life. And then on either side is your stressed out zones. Either too much stress stresses you out, or as ironic as it sounds, not enough stress stresses us out. And I want to use this analogy real quick, and I'll circle back and you'll see where I'm going with this. But my mom's car, it has been having a lot of problems this year.
Okay.
She got it back from the dealership from like an oil change or something earlier in January this year. And she goes out and drives it, and the engine light comes on. Everybody hates to see the engine light. So she takes it into the dealership, and they say, oh, actually, this is the problem. We'll fix it. We'll give you a loaner car and come back when it's done. So about a week goes by in the loaner car, and she takes it back, and she picks up her car, and they're like, all right, we fixed everything. And about 2 days later of driving it, the engine light comes back on.
Oh, no.
So she's like, okay, this is annoying. And she takes it back to the dealership, gives her a loaner, same process. She gets her car back a week or two later, drives it out, and about 2 days later, the engine light comes back on. And it's just like, oh my gosh, how long is this going to go on for? And if I had to guess, I don't remember the exact number. I think this happened 5 or 6 times. It happened over our spring break when I was home. And I remember I was sitting in class and my mom sends me a picture when I go back to school after spring break, and it's of her dash with the engine light on.
Yeah.
And she's like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And the reason I tell this story is my mentor back home says it this way. When you feel hungry, that is your body telling you that you need food. When you feel thirsty, that's your body telling you that you need water. So stress is our body telling us that we need something. There's something missing in the equation of our life right now. And the reason I talk about the car is stress is our body's engine light coming on, saying something's not working the way it's supposed to. We're not operating at our fullest potential right now. So what do? You have to address it. If you leave the engine light on, it might blow up in your face. So what did my mom do? She brings it to the dealership. So what do? We have to take our lives to our dealership. We'll talk about what that might look like in a second. And I'll go back to the story of the car. It happened a lot of times, and my mom ended up having to get a new car.
Oh.
It was just like, this is happening too much. New car.
Right.
2 things to highlight out of this story is, one, when the engine lights of our lives come on, something needs to change. whether that's a small change like bringing it to the dealership, or a big change like getting a new car. Our vehicle, the vehicle of our life, is not working. We need a new vehicle. And that can be a big change. But the other thing to highlight is nowhere in this story did we ever say, or did they ever say, that my mom was unworthy of driving a car because her engine light came on. Her driver's license was never revoked. Nobody stopped her from driving a car. She just needed a new car. In the same way, when our engine light comes on, when stress is getting to us, that is not our bodies telling us that we can't live a life of purpose. That's not our bodies telling us that we are unworthy of this life we've been given. It's just our body saying, we need a new vehicle. The way we're driving is not working right now. So, my next question for you. I know that was kind of a long story. Does it make sense, the story?
It does. It
Okay.
does.
Because sometimes things make sense in my head and it doesn't.
Perfect
I don't
sense.
always
Perfect sense.
explain it perfectly. But what do you think the dealership is of our lives? When we feel stressed out, what do we need to go to? What do we need to do to repair that stress and turn off our engine light?
I love it. What a great story, and what a great example of looking at two elements there. So one thing we could look at is, what are we doing to proactively protect ourselves from stress before stress happens? So if we use the car example, we can think about taking care of the car, maybe getting a high quality car. You know, we probably would agree that maybe a newer car would have less check engine light come on than older cars. Okay, so we know the parameters of that example. When we go back to the fight or flight response, what we find is that the better we take care of ourselves psychologically and physiologically, what happens is that fight or flight response, something triggers us. That fight or flight response is less intense and shorter in duration. So the more fit you are psychologically and physically, stress has less of an impact on you. As we look at taking poorer care of ourselves physically or psychologically, and I realize that's a very complicated situation, we find that stress has a larger negative impact and it lasts longer.
One thing I want to add real quick is, love that. Taking care of yourself, cleaning the car, driving it safely, making sure that you get your oil changes when you're supposed to. Another thing that you're supposed to do with your car is make sure you check what gas it requires. My car, for example, is 89 minimum, 91 preferred. A lot of times I do 87 though, because gas is very expensive.
Yeah, it is.
But I bring that up to say, I know that purpose is our fuel. It is what drives us. And I have another episode coming about burnout, and we're going to talk about how burnout, or running on fumes, running on empty, is when your fuel is in something that isn't your purpose, something that expires. So be careful what you're fueling yourself with. That's part of taking care of yourself. I talk about it in an earlier episode, the difference between being driven by your work and towards your work. If you are driven by your work, then that will come to an end, and you will run out of gas, and you will find yourself burnt out, stressed out, wondering, why on earth am I here?
Well, and it's fascinating, because your earlier question was, what is the dealership? Dealership could be high quality gas. Could be self-care. Could be quality relationships. Could be something is worrying you, and so somebody that you trust, you can share or process that with. It can, when we have a balanced life, and part of that, of course, is purpose, it helps us, if we go back to one of the earlier things we said, to appraise what is happening.
Yeah.
And with that evaluation, then we can make sound decisions or decisions in line with our values
Yeah.
and our mission. So my mission statement, as you well aware, is very easy, is to change the world one student at a time. And so you think, sometimes I'll teach classes that I've taught before, but what happens is for every student in that class, it's the first time.
Yeah.
And so I have to come in as if there is newness in all of this. And of course, you're aware of my passion for what I teach. And so you think, as your journey unfolds, maybe the podcast you'll be making 1 year from today in 2026, maybe that'll have a whole different focus than will it be in 27, because you'll be different.
Yeah.
And what you have realized or where your journey has taken you will unfold differently. Can we promise that you'll be less stressed in a year than you are today? I bet that's probably actually not true.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's fascinating to think about, if we stay with that example, what is our dealerships? What's my dealership? What's your dealership? You know, for me, I'm deeply committed to working out and fitness, and I really love that. That is one of my favorite kind of hobbies. I have a lot of friends that I work out with that I really enjoy and laugh and bring humor. So it's more than just the working out, but the community and other kinds of things. And so you think, even doing podcasts of partnerships and learning and exploring, like, where is this going to go? You know, we're not scripted here. How wonderful. And so to me, when we talk about the car example or the dealership, really the bottom line for individuals is to say, what am I doing? If I can borrow from Stephen Covey, what am I doing to sharpen the saw? So if we're cutting wood, over time, chainsaws, hand saws get dull, and we have to work harder and harder and harder and do less, get less done. And so how do we stay sharp? For some people, it's a walk. For some people, it's working out. For some people, it's connecting with people. And we want to do that in a healthy way. And then you think, well, maybe if I have a lot of work to do, maybe I can figure out something fun in between that. I know that you've been incredibly successful with our Student Government Association and have just an incredible future. Everything that you've shared has been the rewards of that. Yeah, it's a lot of work and it's complicated. And, you know, SGA is probably one of our top organizations here and has lasted for many, many years. But the rewards of that, when we settle down or look at the year in a retrospective perspective, then we think, oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
And now you've been reelected in a top leadership role. So you have a whole nother year ahead of you. As you can see, then there'll be like the freshman behind you. Of course, you'll be a sophomore and a junior, senior. That's not low stress, but that is purpose. And that is a way of saying, this has really been rewarding in a deeply fundamental way. And that helps me kind of almost vaccinate myself against some of the negative impacts of stress.
Yeah. I do have a lot going on. You said it earlier. I'll say it again. I mean, my schedule is crazy. If you ask me to grab lunch, I have to say, let me get back to you. Let me check my calendar. How does 3 weeks out sound? But
you got to eat.
But with as much stress in my life that I have, I rarely ever, almost never feel stressed out.
Love that.
And I was in the shower this morning getting ready for this podcast, and I was thinking about what's my process? I don't feel stressed out very often. My mom always says, do you know what a beige flag is? It's like a red flag is like something that's bad. A beige flag is like, it's not good. It's not bad. It's like, this is interesting. Like,
I'm curious.
It's that I'm never stressed out. Nothing ever bothers me. I'm so unbothered that sometimes it's abnormal. But I started thinking, what is the process that I take to approach stress, to deal with stress, to prevent me from actually getting stressed out? So I wrote down 6 steps that I take. We'll go through them quickly because we're running short on time. But I would love your thoughts on each one. And this is not a perfect formula.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious.
there are a lot of different things out there. It may work for the listener. Listener might need to adjust some things, but this is what works for me.
Okay.
So I want to share it with you. And it just happens to be that all of these are words that start with A. So
Okay.
these are the 6 A's. The first is anticipation. Because I think it's really important to anticipate that there will be stress. If you anticipate a stress-free life, then when stress hits you, it's going to hit you so much harder because you weren't expecting it. Think about like if you're in a boxing match and you're ready for a punch, you can dodge it, you can block it, or even if it does hit you, you're expecting it. Whereas if you're walking away from somebody and they come up from behind you and punch you in the head, you might get knocked out to the ground. Like you have no clue what just happened.
Right.
Your whole world's shaken. So I think it's really important to anticipate that there will be stress.
I love that. And what you're doing is you're pre-framing how you're going to interpret and how you're going to appraise that stress. And so I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
After anticipation, the next one for me is awareness.
Okay.
Being aware of what's going on in my environment. Being aware of how my body and my mind is responding to my environment. Being aware enough to realize when my check engine light is on, because it does come on. And a lot of times it comes on from a lack of balance. I can get very carried away in my work and I forget about the people in my life, or forget about taking time to myself, or forget to call my parents or something like that. So balance is really key in my life, but it stems from being aware.
And I really love that, because when we have that awareness, we are staying in control. Now, we can't control everything, of course.
Yeah.
And if we can, with that awareness, pause for the briefest moment, which you're really implying, then we have choices.
Yeah.
When we don't have, when that awareness immediately leads to something, we've skipped a step.
Yeah.
And I think that's just an incredible gift for you, is to think about, I'm going to maybe have a day full of stress. And then as it's happening kind of in a variable way throughout the day, I just bring that into my kind of cognitive, emotional awareness. Love that.
And anticipation and awareness are similar, but if you have the anticipation that someone's going to punch you, going back to the punching analogy, and that someone is stress.
Yeah.
But you don't have the awareness to realize where it might punch you from, or when it's going to punch you, or if you got punched, having the awareness to realize that you got punched.
And I will add this, metaphorically, a lot of times people feel like stress is a punch.
Yeah.
And so they feel like, I've just been punched.
Yeah.
When they technically haven't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So both work with each other. Anticipation, awareness. The next is, the first two is pre-stressed out for me. That's what I try and live by to avoid getting stressed out.
All right.
But I do get stressed out. I'm human.
Sure.
And the first thing is acceptance. So anticipation, awareness, and then when I do get stressed out, acceptance. And why I say acceptance is I'm not saying that I accept that I am stressed out and I'm going to stay here, but I accept that I am stressed out. And that this isn't some fairy tale. This isn't some magical force. I'm stressed. And I'm not going to fight back against it. I'm going to work through it. So acceptance for me is realizing stress is real. And I'm feeling stress. I accept that. And I'm not going to try and resist it. I am going to almost absorb it and figure out, how do I work through this right now to come out better on the other side?
And doesn't that, in a beautiful way, connect back to your theory of when we suppress things, they become planted seeds that grow and get bigger and overwhelm us and really put us in bad situations. The other element is, even when we look at emotional or even cognitive, when we can get to that acceptance point, I think I love your model, that helps us minimize it.
Yeah.
It really like almost like we move through it rather than it becoming 40-pound weights on our shoulders.
Yep. Anticipation, awareness, acceptance, and the next one is addressing. The title of this podcast is Address the Stress. My mentor back home says, pay attention to the tension. And it's the idea again of don't ignore the check engine light.
I love that.
We anticipate it's going to come on. We're aware of where it might come on from. We accept that it is on. Now address it. Don't leave it on. Make sure you take time to go to the dealership, whether that's spending time with friends, spending time alone, because we need alone time. And a lack of personal time can lead to stress. Whether that's maybe working out, whatever your dealership is, address that check engine light so you can turn it off. That makes sense?
It does. And I think that what this whole model is saying I'm empowered to interpret stress in ways that help me take care of myself, take care of other people, and pursue my purpose.
Yeah.
If I can borrow that again.
Yeah, absolutely. So after addressing, I have adjusting. Because we accept that the check engine light is on. We go to the dealership, but you can't just take your car to the dealership and let it sit there. Adjusting is where that change comes in. I remember this model that Dr. Cubain showed on the screen at some seminar. And the question was, are you happy? And one side went to no, one side went to yes. The yes then went to keep doing what you're doing. The no then had two more things branching out. Do you want to be happy? Yes or no? If the answer was no, it goes back to keep doing what you're doing. If you're not happy and you don't want to be happy, keep doing what you're doing. But nobody is unhappy and wants to stay that way. So then when you go to yes, the next thing is change something. You can't keep doing what's not working and expect something differently to happen. You can't expect a different outcome from the same process. So that's where adjusting comes in.
And I'd probably actually disagree with what you just said.
Really?
That I think there are a lot of people who want to stay unhappy, want to stay stressed.
Yeah.
You know why? Because that's the place of comfort.
Yeah.
If I don't take responsibility, I blame you, I blame this, I blame that. And oftentimes when we feel disempowered, when we feel unsafe, we retreat so far back that we think, I might be afraid of being happy.
And then I would agree and disagree with you, which is totally fine. We're just conversing. I 100% agree that there are people that want to stay unhappy because they want to be comfortable. And I know that because I was that person. Yep. When challenge hit my life in 9th grade, I retreated off the path of life and into a bush. And I wanted to stay there because I was scared of what life might throw my way. But where I disagree is I think deep down, everybody wants to be on the path of life. And even in the moment, if you feel like you want to retreat to the bushes, I think people do that because they think it's the only way. And it's just like, I want peace. And they don't realize that you can have peace in trials and in stress on the path of life.
And the unhappiness has blinded them to the staircase or the path out. I love it. And I totally agree. Is the human condition bound to make a difference and to contribute and to be valued? Of course.
Yeah.
I think that when we look at this, if we get serious for a moment, in 2025, we look at so many prescriptions that are oriented to making you happy, substance abuse, self-harm. So much of that is because people don't know another path. That's why we need, partnerships with other people. And sometimes people have to go for help or read books or get counseling or do other kinds of things that really help them find their path to their purpose.
Yeah. Because I know from experience when I was living life in the bushes, going back to that example again, yes, I said, I don't want to do this. Meaning I didn't have any more energy to give.
Yeah.
I was like, this life is hard. Like this, I just want to stay over here. But really deep down, what I really wanted was I want to flourish. But I don't think that's possible for me. So I'm going to stay over here and tell myself this is what I want.
Isn't it, the human condition is so magnificent. And I fundamentally believe and live this on a daily basis as much as I can, that sometimes we're even so far in, we can't even ask for help.
Yeah.
But maybe you, maybe me, lots of others, we can be agents of change for people,
Yeah.
to have them be heard, to have them feel valued. I had a student many, many years ago, and then just recently say to me, "You made me feel seen." And I will remember that like it was yesterday. And of course, I don't have any memory of doing that.
Yeah.
And you think about, if we are living such a protected life, we're missing those opportunities with other people that you so generously create and foster.
Yeah.
That's why your life is so wonderful. And then we have to think, how can we do that here at High Point University, in the broader world, whatever? How can we get people to see a different path?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to me, that is just incredible in terms of looking at stress in a positive light.
Yeah. And I talked about suppressing your weaknesses and ending up suppressing your strengths. When you hide your life, you're not just hiding it from yourself. You are hiding your life from other people.
Right.
And you are hiding other people from you.
Are we deserving of love? Are we deserving of belonging? Are we deserving of somewhat protected risk? Yeah. And I think that's ultimately what we're talking about here, is to say, why is it that I would either move forward progressively towards some identified goal, or why would I maybe not? Or maybe why would I take second best, third best?
Yeah.
It's a more profound question.
Yeah. The last A is accelerate. And I say this because I'll go back to the car analogy, just because I'm a big visual guy. So I like the visual imagery of the car going in the dealership. But your check engine light comes on, you take it to the dealership, and you change something, you adjust something, and now you don't keep your car in the dealership. You get back in and you drive. Accelerating is the idea of moving forward despite the possibility of stress, despite the inevitability of weakness, having the vulnerability to turn on the car and to step on the gas and drive, to be the driver of your own life. That's what accelerating is all about.
Yeah. I think the second layer of that, and I love that, is when we've gone through all the previous steps, that enables us to rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I think what we really could do in an analysis of your model is think, maybe for an individual, where do they potentially trip up?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, kind of, where do I get stuck?
Yeah.
And so if we can get them through those steps, then go change the world.
Yeah.
Go realize your purpose. And I think I really like that. And
Yeah.
you came up with that in the shower?
I did come up with this in the shower.
When are you writing a book?
I don't know.
When is your book coming out?
I don't know when it's coming out. I've been working on one.
Okay.
But it's hard with school sometimes. You
Yep.
know, I'm limited on time, and I jot down my ideas in a notebook or on a Google Doc when they come to mind, and I
love that.
organize them on folders and stuff like that. But yeah, this is something I came up with today in the shower. It's currently 10:01 a.m. and I came up with it at around 8:30. So
Wow.
I was just thinking about, how do I handle stress?
Yeah.
So just to recap, anticipation, expecting that there will be stress, awareness, having the self-awareness and the awareness of your environment to realize where that stress might come from. Acceptance, realizing that your check engine light has come on, don't ignore it. Addressing, now that it has come on, make sure you do something about it. Adjusting, that's where the change comes in. Something's not working, something needs to change. Let's go to the dealership and then accelerate. Like you said, rock and roll. Is there any final words, final advice that you want to leave the listener today?
Yes. I want to say thank you for the time. Thank you for the invitation and the conversation. When we even look at your model, I want to say that you serve as an inspiration for me as a professor, for the path forward, for the journey that we do here at High Point University. I think when we can have role models that serve as intentions of our behavior and guide that, I think we're a much better person.
Yeah.
And you do that for me. So I'm
Thank
grateful.
you.
Thank
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Dr. Bergen, thank you for taking the time to jump on this podcast today. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
And to the listener, you have a purpose and you can live it out. And stress does not count you out of a life of purpose. So expect stress, accept stress, and overcome. Have a great day.
Thank you.